Community Heart Media. Your voice, your heart, your opportunity. Welcome to tonight's show.
G'day, it's a Wednesday night again. Community Heart Radio 98.9 Northwest FM. Always good to have a few technical issues on the radio, and tonight's no exception. Julio's out sleeping somewhere, but we got Kelly and Mark here with an amazing Deborah Halpern. And Kel, it's just going to be a great night. I'm not much of an artist, but I'm going to learn a bit about a journey of an artist who's become famous around Australia. And not only is she doing great art, and it's amazing, she's helping a lot of people in the community. So really excited about having Deborah as our very, very special guest tonight. What do you think, Kel? What do you like at art?
Well, yes, welcome, Deborah, and thanks to all our listeners and viewers tonight. I am a shocking artist, absolutely shocking, but I'm really keen to hear your story, Deborah. I've seen some of your amazing, incredible artwork, and to share your, like, how you've come this far.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
Well, Deb, good to hear you here. Tell us a bit about yourself, Deb. How did it all start? Did you start doing art at 2 in the playground, or like at home out of the cot? Like, how did it all begin for you?
Well, I was brought up in Warrandyte, which is a very in Melbourne, in Victoria. It's an outer suburb of Melbourne, but it's really full of creative people. And you know, as a young person, I didn't notice anything was different about my upbringing. But my parents were both founding members of Potter's Cottage, which some Melbourne people, I could say older Melbourne people, might remember was a destination place selling pottery, and had a restaurant and had a potter's school. It really made Warrandyte it's sort of known for the place that it is on the river Yarra. So, you know, as a child, I was, you know, if I'd say to my mum, I'm bored, which I can't believe I ever did, but I probably did, she would just shove a piece of clay into my hand. You know, if I had friends over, we'd all just be, you know, making stuff just to, you know, keep us out of her hair. And so if you just, you know, if it's sort of the water that you swim in, a creative upbringing, you don't think about it as a child. And it was only when I became older, and I would hear my friends saying, oh, you know, you can't make your living as an artist, or, you know, they tell me the things that weren't possible you know, to live a creative life. And I used to think, why are they saying that? That's just weird. And you know, and then I realized that if you're growing up with people always just making things, selling things, making their living through what they're doing, then you don't question it, because that's what you see, you know, that's just the world you live in. So, you know, that's sort of that's the beginnings, Mark. And then, you know, from being a potter, in fact, I didn't want to be a potter. I didn't want to be a creative person. I wanted to be, well, no, not a creative person. I didn't want to be a visual artist. I wanted to be more a like a writer, something like that, or journalist, something in that realm. And then I could see it's very hard to just make your living as an artist, as a journalist. You come straight out of school and you're like, okay, I can write stuff, give me a job. Well, that doesn't go. That didn't work. That doesn't work. So then I went back to what I already knew, which is how to make stuff, make pots, you know, fire them in the kiln, sell them at a market, see whatever people would pay for them, that's what they would pay. And so that's how it began. And then I became well known for things that I made, and that's sort of the beginning. But that started small, got bigger.
That's so cool. And so when your parents had this potter's house, which I'm keen to look up myself actually to see what it was like and see some of the photos. Did they teach you how to make pottery? You know, did you go to some of those classes and you always really enjoyed it? Or?
Well, I did. In the end, I did, Kelly, because I saw that if I was going to make my living as an artist, then I needed to really know about what I was doing. So, you know, I actually went to the school. So the Potter's Cottage, which is what it's called, it literally began as tiny little cottage in Warrandyte. And, you know, the potters would just look after it at the weekend, and you buy Devonshire tea, and people would come to Warrandyte and have a scone and a cup of tea and buy
nice.
And then it became so successful that this group of creative people bought a farmhouse, which became the Real Potter's Cottage, and the school began there. So then I went to the school, and I thought, you know, learning what I needed to learn. And then later on, I became a teacher in that school. So, you know, it all, what goes around comes around.
Absolutely. Oh, do you want to be going to Warrandyte this weekend, Mark? It sounds beautiful.
It is, but Potter's Cottage, as it was, does not exist anymore. I mean, it's still there, but it's not the place I grew up with, where we were laying the bricks for the paving and, you know, doing whatever you had to do, whether you're a kid or a grown-up.
So cool. And Mark, I'm not sure if you caught much of that. I could see your face was frozen there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm having internet trouble. Unfortunately, the internet at the station's down, and I'm hotspotting, so I'm going to come in and out all night. But I know Deborah. I love what she does. I love what she brings to art and the community. And Deborah, I tell you, just tell us a bit about, when I walk around Melbourne, I actually see some of your artwork. Tell us a bit about the artwork I might see down there at Docklands or on St Kilda Road. There's different artwork you've got. Just tell us a bit about all that artwork.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark. Look, there are two that will be possibly well known to people in Melbourne. One is called Angel, which used to stand in the moat of the National Gallery on St Kilda Road. And it was in the moat. It had 3 legs, still has 3 legs, and 2 heads, and covered 10 metres high and 10 metres long, and covered in ceramic tiles, painted ceramic tiles. And that was a commission from the gallery to, you know, really bring some life to the big grey wall of the National Gallery on St Kilda Road. And then after, you know, many years, it, you know, was moved to beside Federation Square, where the Australian part of the National Gallery was is now, well, Gallery of Victoria, I should say, is now located. So Angel is now on the riverbank. She still looks after the people of Melbourne, looks after Melbourne, looks after the river. She takes the job seriously, and people, you know, can now walk through her legs and give her a hug, and, you know, they love her. So that's Angel. And then there's one which I've literally just finished doing some restoration work on down at Southgate, called Ophelia. And Ophelia is that's also on the riverbank, but on the other side near Southgate. And Ophelia, I don't know how tall she is. She might be 4 meters tall, something like that. And she's only small. And she is, so she's also got ceramic tiles on her. And her story is that she comes from the Shakespeare, you know, character called Ophelia, who sadly drowned herself because she was sad because her love for, I think it was Hamlet, was not, you know, reciprocated. But my Ophelia, she hasn't drowned herself because she has the friendship of the people of Melbourne, who they also love her and keep her going, you know, in her life as an artist. But that sculpture, Kelly, was used as the face of Melbourne by the city of Melbourne. So for quite a while, that sculpture represented Melbourne. It was, I mean, that's groundbreaking to have a sculpture represent the city. Yeah. And so on the trams there was Ophelia, and there were bloody banners, and, you know, it was really fun.
That is absolutely cool. So talk to us about each of the journeys with these art pieces. So Angel, now where did you come up with the concept and the idea to create Angel and for the placement there as well?
Oh, well, I think this could be an interesting story for Mark particularly, because Mark and I have a project that we're doing together, which we'll talk about that a little bit later, I think. But this is about having a beginner's mind and actually not knowing what is ahead of you, which makes you very bold. If you don't know what's going down, you just go, yeah, I'm going to take that on. So the National Gallery, they invited me when I was, I don't know, 28, maybe. I was only young, to make a sculpture for the front moat of the National Gallery. And then, so I almost said no, because I thought, oh man, I can't. How am I going to do that? Because I was only young. And
did they approach you and say, this is, we want a sculpture in the city of Melbourne? Or
well, they wanted it for the moat of the gallery. They wanted it specifically for that spot. And anyway, because I didn't know, I just looked at that wall of the gallery and I went, that needs something colourful and life-affirming and gorgeous against that big grey wall. So not knowing what I was taking on, I just thought it had to be 10 metres high. And I just had to be big and gorgeous.
You had that vision in mind.
I did. And having never done anything like that before, that a sculpture of that size needs engineering. It needs to be engineered. You can't just throw it together and hope that it holds together. So I had to work with engineers and I had to work with fabricators, and it cost a lot of money. And we, the city of Melbourne gave us a fabulous shed to work in down at the docks. Before Docklands was a residential place. It was like a customs area. We had to sign in and out. Yeah, it was interesting. And the boats would come right in to unload, and the sailors with knives tucked into their boots would be wandering around.
That's so cool. So what year was this when you said it used to be like that?
Yeah, I know. Well, it was 80. So she was installed in the moat in 89, and so we were making her for 3 years. We were making her in that shed for since 86. So in 1989, the Docklands was still a working dock.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Sorry,
now, Deborah, you've been down to have you been down to the lawn lately? Tell us a bit about your lawn trip down there and the impact you had on that community down there.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. That was good fun. So last year, I was not last year, but like pre-pandemic, I was invited to be part of the Lawn Biennale, which is every 2 years. Artists are invited to make installations, specific to that lawn bit of gorgeousness down there.
Beautiful.
And people come down and have a look and experience them. And so I was invited to be part of that. So short version is, no, I shouldn't say short version, long version. The short version is that I was, so I made an installation that celebrated the Arab Cafe and the Wild Colonial Club, which for people who know lawn and have been there for years, they know these institutions and they love them. So this was really about the family that created those two, the cafe and the Wild Colonial Club, which was a music venue. And, people used to, lawn, even now is quite a long way away, but back in the 50s, it was a really long way away. And people used to go all the way down to Lawn to, dance the night away. Anyway, so that was that. Now that created, so then I got to know a lot of the people in Lawn at that point. Then I had an exhibition in Lawn this year at Kudos Gallery, and it was like a big party. I mean, people were just loving it, and it's a beautiful venue, and it's a terrific community down at Lawn. So, community is everything.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and it is Community Heart Radio. I'm pointing at the sign that I'm looking at.
Pointing at the logo. You like the name?
Yeah, I love it.
And now,
Deborah does have a real community heart too, Deb, because you do a lot of stuff in schools and with community groups, local councils. Tell us a bit about your community stuff. Well,
Mark, there are Well, there's a bit. So a while ago, I went to Nepal. I was invited, a group of us went to Nepal to meet some women who were survivors of child trafficking. And, it's really extraordinary young women, some young, some not so young, who have been sold into, servitude, I suppose it is. So sold to be either it's sex slaves or just working for nothing, and so these women had been brought back to Nepal, and they were just the most gutsy, extraordinary, courageous women who are now looking to live the next phase of their lives without this hideous experience every day. And so I worked, a group of us worked with those women, and we really were having conversations with them and doing some training with them about, how do you live your future life that's not just based on your experiences from the past? So how can you be courageous and forward-looking and adventurous and taking life with both hands rather than protecting yourself all the time and just trying not to have something happen again? So, that was really a fabulous, extraordinary experience. And those women were just fabulous, just blew me away. And then,
how are you involved in these community groups, for all our listeners and viewers out there, to go to Nepal and to be involved in something like that? That's an incredible story.
Well, I have a friend of mine actually already had a connection with these women in Nepal. So she was the one who gathered us together. But Kelly, there are, I reckon there are just any number of organisations that you could be part of, with the refugees, working with the refugees here in Australia, or, heaven knows there are so many disasters. I mean, I'm not really laughing, like happening all the time, everywhere, that you could really connect yourself with any group of people, whether here in
What happened in your life, Deborah? What's happened in your life to give you this community heart that you have? Because we are Community Heart Radio, and you have got a community heart, Deb. And how did you get that, or where did that come from? What's the backstory?
Well, I don't really know, Mark, but I think my mother always talked about the brotherhood of man. So this was like, so this is, we on the planet, we're all one. We all belong to each other. The blood that runs in our veins is all red. It doesn't matter what color we are on the outside. So we're all humans together doing the best that we can. And, to have some, you can't just leave some behind and go, oh, no, we're not going to look after those ones. So my mum was always very humanistic, and I always thought, even as a creative person, as a creative person, I should say, you can give your time, you can give your artwork, you can give, if I have a windfall with my selling my work, I can give some money. So there's always a way that you can really contribute. And Mark, I always think I'm never doing enough. We're just never doing enough. So,
but you did start your own little charity called Art for Good. Now, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, Art for Good is something that is really just it's an entity. It's a vehicle to be able to create projects and create ways to have my art life be able to contribute. So whether it's create a prize for beginning artists, or I don't know, it could be any way. It could be like the project you and I are doing together, Mark, which that's also art. It's art for good. Human beings are creative, so
100%.
It's a little bit a no-brainer. It's a little bit sort of the bottom line for me. It's like, well, that is what I do. I'm creative. Yeah. I do stuff with my hands, and let's see what's possible.
So good.
And Kelly, Deborah is very, very humble. She's a famous artist, OAM. done art across everywhere, well known in art circles, well known for her amazing art. I mean, it's just such a privilege having Deborah on our show tonight.
You're very, very, very humble, Deborah. And we've got quite a few of our listeners already commenting. Julio is saying, hey guys, sorry I can't be on the show, but I love Deborah's sculptures. They remind me of some Chilean art and Valparaiso. Now, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Julio. Valparaiso with the colours. And one of our other listeners says, hey, Pete, hope you're well tonight. And here's a question for you. Where does your inspiration come from? Is it based on all the experiences that you've had? And if so, what experiences impacted you the most? Great question, Chris.
Oh, that's a bit of a leading question, isn't it?
Yes.
Let me think about that. So I think that my inspiration comes from what the world around me. Growing up in Warrandyte, to see people around me making things, pottery, painting, selling things in markets, musicians, the people who are filmmakers. I just think, life is just too short. For all the things that we want to do, there's just not enough of this opportunity here. So I think you just have to go for it. So with inspiration, I mean, I'm inspired by Picasso, and I'll tell you why Picasso inspires me. His work inspires me because Picasso did everything. He did painting, he did printmaking, he did sculpture, he did ceramics. Like there was nowhere that he looked or was that wasn't a creative opportunity.
Agree.
And I used to look at that as a child, as a young person, and go, man, if he can do all that stuff, I'm going to do all that stuff too. Now, of course, I'm not caliber of Picasso, but his way of thinking, the way he lived his life, separate from any of the things we didn't like about the way he lived his life, but his creative life was really inspiring. And then I'd look at somebody like, say, Brett Whiteley. So, and Brett Whiteley's paintings, for those of you who know them, like, some of them, they're just so expressive and they're like just great swathes of blue, which is, the Sydney Harbour, which he looked at and loved. And you'd go, man, that's so courageous to just do a great big swathe of blue with big lines that show birds flying across it. And, it's just, sometimes I just look at at other people's work, and I go, man, that just blows my mind the way they think and do.
It's so interesting when you said the environment and your surroundings and what you pick up. Was there anything that really influenced you? Like you said, your parents, for example, had Potter's House. Was there anything from that era, or you must have seen so much throughout your journey, throughout the years as well, that you painted and expressed?
Well, the thing is, Kelly, I think it's all, I just think we are creative beings. So you at the beginning said something about, that you're not, but maybe not in a visual art way. You are creative in different ways. Correct. But I believe that what you grow up with is what, we are creative. Human beings just are. You're not.
I agree.
You're not born in a human body without. You don't. Some of us don't leave the creativity away. In the womb. I dropped my creativity.
Hey, Deborah, is there some artwork that is memorable to you that something you've created that you're really proud of and you want to tell us about? Some piece that has really left a mark on you that you've sort of commissioned out there?
Well, look, the works that I can't really say that there is one. That, mind you, when you did say that, Mark, I did think of Angel, because to make such a big work and for it still to be, she's in really good shape. Like that sculpture has been there since '89. So I don't know how many years that is, but it's a lot of years. So she's been part of the Melbourne world. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of her. And even though I say her, like she's separate from me, in some way she is, because she's got a job to do. You know, sculptures and artwork in the world, they exist. It's like you put a picture in your house and you live with it. It's like an entity. It's like it feeds you. It feeds your soul. It feeds your own mind, your own thinking. So, you know, things. I mean, I just love the world. I mean, that's going to sound really corny, isn't it? But you know, I think human beings are very, very interesting. And if you let yourself be interested in them, then there's no end of inspiration.
I was just going to ask you, Deborah, have there been other cultures, like when you see inspiration, have there been other cultures or destinations as such that have really inspired you to want to paint them?
Well, Kelly, I did before I made Angel, the National Gallery sculpture, I did a study tour in Europe, and the people I was studying, when I say studying, that sounds, I wasn't. I was going to look at the people who were called outsider artists, and those people, they're not often, but they're often people who are not part of the art world, meaning they don't have exhibitions, they don't care about selling their work, they just love to make stuff. And so I was traveling around Europe, a lot in France, and like you'd come across in the middle of some country town this amazing garden which was full of people made out of tin cans and old springs, and you know, it looks crazy, but for me it's like a really raw version of human creativity. People aren't worried about what people think about them. They're just adorning their space in that way. And often they do things like on the front fence, they'd have little notes to people walking past, like, you know, I don't know what they'd say, but because a lot of it was in French, but you know, just amazing stuff. Or also in France, there was a guy, what's his name? It was called the Carved Rocks of Rotten Earth. And the guy who carved these rocks was like a priest or like a religious person. And he carved these rocks. I mean, it's not easy to carve rock. You know, it's easier to make something out of a tin can with a spring. But this guy, and so even though I knew where these carved rocks were, and I went to the place, and suddenly I couldn't see them straight away. And I suddenly realized that I was standing on creatures, on people's faces, and they were carved into the rocks that I was standing on. I'm like, oh man, they're all around me. These are inspiring to me. It's inspiring.
So cool. We've got one of our viewers who's asked, Deborah, what about Da Vinci?
Oh, well, yeah, good.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
love it.
No, well, look, different people have different skills. He was brilliant. He was brilliant in all sorts of ways. So, you know, that's if we can encourage people and give people the space to do what they want to do with their incredible human minds, that's a gift to humanity, because look at what he's given us. He's given us not only paintings, but, you know, mechanical things and all sorts of amazing stuff.
Oh, I completely agree. I was going to say, Deborah, you said earlier, you know, some of the schools that you're involved with and some of those students that you've taught. Has there been one outstanding that you can think of as well with students that you've gone and seen their amazing artwork that you think we should be going and seeing as well?
Look, I have to say, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I say that. I mean, it's not why I say that. It's just I can't think of anybody particularly, but often people will do some work with me, or, you know, we'll have a a school time together, and they have like the doors are opened and they're like, man, look what I could do with clay, or I could paint like this, or maybe we could do printmaking that way, or maybe I could just carve something out of a bit of plywood and roll it up with ink and print it that way. So people get really liberated. But if they don't persist, and there are lots and lots of talented people, like hugely clever, naturally talented people who could do amazing things, but if they don't have the ongoing support, or I come back to the word courage, because it takes courage. You've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to go for it. You've got to be willing to have conversations with people that don't go anywhere, no matter how enthusiastic you are. And God knows I know that.
Hey, Deborah, I do love that. I love that, being prepared to waste time to just, go out there. And you and I are involved in an arts project with Arts for Good and Big Brothers Big Sisters at Melbourne High, where we're trying to increase arts participation, which arts participation really has a great impact on young people, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. And some of those kids that you and I have met at Melbourne High, they're so I just love them, it opens my heart because they're so enthusiastic. And to be in a school like that where they are supported, where to think in an entrepreneurial way is encouraged, that's really such a gift. And so for them to work together and for, us to come in and give them a prod, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get their brains about entrepreneurialism. Tell us a bit about being an entrepreneur and artist at the same time.
Well, Mark, it's a little bit more of what I was saying before. You've got to be willing to give it a go. Look, it's great if you can write a plan and have some, goals and actions, and it's really great if you're a sort of organized person, but often artists are not very organized and they just gung-ho. So I'm a little bit more of your gung-ho person. And so I just throw it out there. I'll have an idea and I'll ring somebody up and I'll say, hey, I've got this idea. And, people are like, oh my God, here she comes. So, and the ideas either have, they sort of resonate with people, or they don't. Or you have to find a different way into the conversation, or think, how's that person thinking? I'll tell you a funny thing. I went to a client, a client of mine the other day. And my idea, Mark, is to make an apartment block that's in the shape of a woman's head. So it's like a sculpture. Imagine a sculpture. And like 10 stories high, like with apartments in it and shops below. So I've got this all in my head. So I went to this person's house and I said, I've got an idea, like I do, Mark, in our meetings.
Sounds like someone else I know. Matt, what?
Well, that's good. I'm glad Mark's an ideas.
He's an ideas man.
Anyway, so it was really quite an exciting and interesting conversation because, we literally were having the conversation together. I wasn't trying to sell her anything. I was just looking to see if she was interested in going on this journey with me, whatever that journey might be. So, the conversation went from apartment block. I can't quite see it, so I had to describe it some more, even though I had a big model there in the room with us. And then she said, well, maybe it could be, down on the Mornington Peninsula, it could be a restaurant down there, or, a sculpture with a restaurant in it, not an apartment block. And I said, yeah, well, that's a possibility. So that was good. And then she said, hang on a minute, I'll call my husband in. And then he came in and he said, so I had to describe it to him. And then, he's like, well, he said, he went straight to the jugular. He said, so how much? He said, how much do you think this would cost to make? And I'm like, well, I don't even know what we're making yet. So, but he was right into what's it going to cost, So that was really beautiful. But then they called their son in. So he was downstairs in the office doing something, and he came in. Anyway, look, it was just a really. So this is about being an entrepreneur. Mark. You know, I always make it, too many words, but it's really about. Some people are very organized, and they, it's linear, and that's completely valid. They do their research before they jump into the world. And other people like me just sort of have lots of ideas, share them with people, see what happens, often work too hard with not enough, income coming back. It doesn't matter, because that's the job. That's the job description for me.
Love it, Deborah.
Yeah.
Now, one of our viewers, he's got a really good question. I was going to ask you this as well. For anyone, do you still teach or have art classes? Or what are some of the programs you run or projects that you're doing? And particularly for adults, I'm keen to know, because I know now, Deborah, and you may have some information, that art is such a good therapy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all therapy. It's all therapy.
Exactly.
I don't shy away from that at all. Well, I do have workshops from time to time, but they're not regular. So I teach people mosaic, and when I do a mosaic class, it can be for somebody who's absolute beginner, never done any of it before, or for people who have experience, and so they can participate in whatever way they want to, meaning I can just teach them techniques, and we will work through it as they do the work together, or people can come and do something really complicated and build on what they already know and learn from me. So that's something that I do. I mean, this weekend, this is a by the way, but this weekend it's Melbourne Design Week, but at the National Gallery of Victoria, there's a art book fair in the Great Hall of the National Gallery, and a plug for my son. So my son has an installation in the middle of the Great Hall of the National Gallery.
There you go.
I know, it's called a print kitchen, and will have the etching press there, and people can come and make an etching, even if they've never made an etching before, which is what's so lovely about it. Come, free, they make an etching, he prints it with the team, and they go away with it, and they have a fabulous, unique pizza box, because it's a kitchen, and you can turn the pizza box into a frame for your print. So if you want to go and do that this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
at National Gallery of Victoria.
Yeah.
Well, Deborah's got a very talented family, and you're both also involved in a big arts dinner next week, Deborah, on Thursday night at the Arts Centre. Tell us a bit about the arts dinner we've got and the piece of art that you've generously donated to that arts dinner. Yeah.
Are we able to put that up, Mark, or not?
We'll have to check with Julio. I think he was trying to put it up, but
okay. Well,
just tell us a bit about the arts piece and the dinner.
Well, you and I, Mark, are part of a group raising some money for Big Brothers Big Sisters, so we can, and you can say more about this, so we can train more people to work with the kids who are at risk and vulnerable kids. And it's just going to be such a fabulous event. So it's an art auction. We've got at the I'm pointing to the pavilion. I'm in Warrandyte, but I'm pointing to the pavilion.
It's that way.
And, in the National Gallery, and not the National Gallery, sorry, Art Centre, and it's next Thursday. Pavilion. And it's next Thursday night, and we have got some fabulous artwork. We've got prints by we've got a print by Salvador Dali. That's pretty special. We've got prints by We've got screen prints by Andy Warhol. So that's fabulous. I know. So when my son, same son that I was just mentioned, he and I went and did the photos of all the artwork for the catalogue, we were just blown away. I mean, to be in a room with a couple of Andy Warhol prints of Marilyn Monroe, man,
that's
that doesn't happen very often. But But I know, but there's more. There are many, as they say, many more fabulous works. There's a Brett Whiteley.
And if you go to the Big Brothers Big Sisters website, Deborah, you can still buy a ticket. There's still tickets available for this dinner next Thursday night. You'll meet Deborah. Deborah's going to be there. Her artwork's going to be there. A lot of great people are going to be there, and it's all going to help a great cause and help us mentor more young people. So, Deborah, it's just fantastic. Now, your art piece is amazing. It'd be great for someone's house, someone's office. Tell us a bit about the artwork that you've donated.
Well, that artwork is called Night, like Knight, like night, not night, day, night. And it's a horse, so it's a knight. And he is he was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, because Alice had a knight. She had a horse that she rode. So, and what I love about the knight is that he's part of the extraordinary Alice in Wonderland stories, and they are all about anything being possible. If anybody's read them, or if you haven't read them, you should read them, because they're special, fabulous books. But the stories are all about, babies. No, this is going to sound weird. Babies that are pigs, or pigs that are babies. Playing cards that are playing, games themselves, that are animated playing cards, flamingos being used as a I don't know, it's so crazy. But what's it? Like a bat and a porcupine as a ball. Anyway, look, Alice in Wonderland is fabulous, but this sculpture is called Night of Wonderland, I think we've called it. And he's colourful and he's beautiful, and he would love to go and live with somebody who loves him and will contribute to our cause. But we're going to have fun.
And Deb, it's about one of 40 pieces being donated. It's amazing. 40 pieces of art being donated, all up for sale next Thursday night at the Big Brothers Big Sisters art auction dinner. Tickets are available on the Big Brothers Big Sisters website. As I say, Deb's going to be there. She's just been so generous. And Deb, it's something very special. On your table is going to be a bit of Deborah artwork that's available as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, I'm making a unique piece of ceramics for each of the tables. And then so each table will have its own little mini, it's not quite an auction, but what is it, Mark? It's where you buy tickets and people, we pull
raffle, some sort of raffle.
Raffle, that's the word I want. Raffle. Yep. Thank you. So a little per table raffle, and you'll get a unique, whose ever name is pulled out of the hat or number will win the piece that's on the table. So each table will have a ceramic made by me, and that's going to be fun too. So it's just going to be really fun. We've got an opera singer, haven't we, Mark?
Yep. And and we've got some live art being made as well. So it's just going to have everything. This arts dinner.
It's amazing.
Such a great atmosphere.
And I'm going to bring in I'm bringing in some inflatable sculptures that you might have to fight your way past. I don't know.
So cool.
It's going to be great. Now, Deb, we're coming to the end of the show, but we want to hear your top 5 tips of life. You've had an amazing life. You've made an impact on a lot of people. You've created art that thousands and thousands of people have seen and loved, and you've sold a lot of art. So you're quite famous out there. But what would be your 5 tips of life that you've gained over the journey?
All right.
What would be your first tip?
Okay. First tip is to be courageous. That's the first tip. Okay.
Be courageous in everything you do, would you say, Deborah? Or
be courageous. So just live your life with courage, whatever that means to you. Yeah. And then
I love it, Deb. And you certainly are a courageous woman, and you're not afraid to give something a go.
Thank you.
Whether you succeed or not, you've probably had a lot of examples of things you've done that haven't succeeded, but you've had to go down that road to go to the other road of things that do succeed.
Well, that's right. Well, that comes to my second tip, Mark. My second tip is don't be afraid to fail.
You love it,
So,
love it.
So don't back out of something because you think it might fail. If your heart's in it, you've just got to go for it. Okay, so it goes with courage, but it's also, you don't want to hedge your bets all the time. It's just like live life to the full.
Take a risk.
So Now, what's the third one, Mark? Because I haven't thought about these, but I'm thinking now. So the third one.
Well, can I just say something to you, Deb? I love the fact you have big ideas. So you're not, minimize trying to do small stuff. You actually want to make a big impact in your life. I don't know whether that's one of your tips, but that's one of the things I admire about you.
That's a good tip, and that's one of my tips. Yeah. Well, no, it is.
Well, can you tell us what it is in your language?
In your language.
Because can I just give you an example, Kelly? I was trying to raise $10, and Deborah says, "Well, why don't we buy a big building for millions of dollars?" So she's someone that's thinking big picture and wants to make a big impact. So, I mean, I just love that about you, Deb.
That was a funny conversation, wasn't it, Mark? Because somebody else in our group said, "Oh no, that's a stupid idea."
And you're like, "Oh no."
Oh, that was really funny. That was a good conversation, though. You've got to have those gutsy conversations. Look, I think something that's really important to me. There are two things important. I don't know if they're separate. One is integrity. To have integrity and to live your life with integrity, meaning don't be slimy. Be straight.
Be honest and transparent. Yeah.
So that people know who you are, even if they don't like what you're saying or don't agree with you. Just be straight with people and be straight as to,
agree.
From who you are. So that's integrity is really important to me. But and then look, we're probably up to number 5. The number 5 would be compassion. Be compassionate. And humanistic. So I don't know. For me, they're sort of related because it's about the planet, our fellow human beings, not leaving anybody behind. Doing your best in this lifetime because this is the one we've got. This is the opportunity we've got right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, Deb, and everything you've shared tonight, Deb, in that top 5, and I think we had top 5 there. You actually live your life demonstrates what you've just said, and I just love the person you are and what you give out because you are very genuine in everything you do.
Thanks, Mark. Well, thanks for being. It's great working with you and playing the game, not cynically, in an integrous way, and. It's good fun. What else would we do?
That's right. So, Carol, it's been just a great show tonight, Community Heart Radio, and you must feel Deborah's energy and her enthusiasm and her preparedness to give things a go and to make a difference and to sort of step out there,
Absolutely. I was just going to say all those tips that you just shared with us, Deborah, about that compassion and that authenticity and that integrity, it comes from your place of your heart, I can tell. And so there you have 2 amazing art pieces in Melbourne, really well known. You contribute to so many communities, so many schools, so many organisations, to Big Brother, Big Sister, and what your son is doing as well. I'm not surprised. So talented.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly.
Well, Deb, it's been great having you on Community Heart Radio 98.9 Northwest FM, and thanks to our listeners, and thanks for joining us tonight, Deb. And any last comments you've got to make? I know you want to see everyone next Thursday night at the Big Brothers Big Sisters art auction down there at the Arts Centre. What else would you want to say?
Well, come to the auction, or I think you can go online and bid it or buy for them that way, so you don't even have to leave home, and you can contribute to this fabulous cause. So I just say, let's play the game. Let's go for it. You never know, you might end up with a beautiful artwork that will have made a difference to a lot of people.
And it sounds like it's going to be an amazing interactive evening as well.
It's going to be fun, Kelly.
Yeah. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
well, great to hear from everyone.
Deborah. Thanks, everyone. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you Thursday night.